To say that the Harry Potter books and films ended a long time ago would be a severe understatement. As of writing this,
So
it's been a
sad.
whopping 27 years since The Philosopher's Stone was first published, and 13 years since the last Harry Potter film hit the silver
Oh,
screen.
that makes me sad.
And while I feel that both mediums sufficiently developed the characters and story, reading the last few pages of the final book left me longing for more.
But
We
that's,
got so
that's
much,
normal.
yet it still feels like we didn't get enough. Which is why I've scanned through...
But that's normal, because in a world where it's so extensively built like Harry Potter, we're never gonna get enough. Because Warner Brothers hasn't developed it like into a mega multi-universe expanding franchise like Disney has with Star Wars and Marvel, with seeing so many pinpoints of the universe that they built differently. Harry Potter, we know there's so much potential for expansion, but we've been limited so much because we've got nothing except 3 Fantastic Beasts movies. That's it. And it's a travesty.
Extended publications, interviews, and more in search of answers. Today, we're going to be exploring 7 things that were revealed about our favourite Harry Potter characters after the books and films
I can't wait
ended.
for this. I love little
Let's
lore
dive in.
tidbits like this.
Hey everyone, welcome to
Hello
another
again.
installment of Harry Potter Theory. Before we get started,
Harry
I just want to
Potter
make one distinction.
Theory.
This video will be exploring things that happen to the Wizarding World and characters after the story ends, i.e. what happens to them next.
What happens
And
after
not
the first
necessarily
big
just
bad
things we
dies.
learn about the Harry Potter story after the series ended. There are plenty of facts about the series that are revealed later, like the fact that McGonagall was married, and that there are actually 11 major wizarding schools worldwide. But I'll be saving that sort of stuff for another video.
I learned those
Anyway,
stuff
without
already.
further ado, let's dive in. No more Dementors. Dementors are the
Oh, that's
terrifying
a
guards
good
of
thing.
Azkaban.
Thankfully,
10-foot-tall,
no
cloaked
one needs
beings
them.
with dark grey,
they are
scabby
way
skin.
too much.
These malevolent creatures symbolize the embodiment of unhappiness and despair, and, as guards of the infamous wizarding prison, they are responsible for ensuring that all of the darkest witches and wizards inside do not escape.
Because it never made sense how are the dark, almost the darkest beings, creatures ever existed, being entrusted in guarding the darkest, most evil wizards. That never made sense to me. That was just you waiting for it to go bad, ejaculating for the coin to drop. It's a horrible idea, whoever thought of that.
But the use of Azkaban and Dementors as a whole always seemed flawed. Azkaban is a truly inhospitable environment, and the criminals that are
It's
sent
no
there
tourist
are
vacation.
effectively just there to suffer and wallow in their own self-pity. In the Goblet of Fire, Sirius Black reveals a little bit about what happens to the prisoners inside. "He wasn't the only one who died," said Sirius bitterly. "Most go mad in there, and plenty stop eating in the end.
Of course.
They lose the will to live. You could always tell when a death was coming, because the Dementors could sense it. They got excited.
Damn, that's dark.
Given that most people either die or go insane, I think that it's safe to say that going there is a death sentence in a way. I mean, it's certainly no rehabilitation facility.
No, you should
And
have
so, for all
executed
these
them
reasons and
immediately.
more, Azkaban changed quite significantly after the fall of Voldemort and reformation of the Ministry of Magic. The most significant of these changes was removing Dementors as prison guards. Kingsley would see to it that Azkaban will no longer use Dementors. The use of
I'm sure
Dementors
the
was always a
Dementor
mark of the underlying
union
corruption of the Ministry, as
protested the
Dumbledore
decision.
constantly maintained. Harry and Dudley settled their differences
I
amidst the
remember
ongoing war with
this.
Voldemort and his...
I remember this, the deleted scene. Oh, I don't know why they deleted this. I remember finding this years after the movie. It should have stayed. It was such a beautiful scene.
Death Eaters. Very little is revealed about the Dursleys after they pack up and head off. But there are a few clues in the form of a segment from the book and a deleted scene from the film, which suggests that there may be a future for Harry and
It
Dudley.
was so nice.
The scene depicts a moment of redemption for Dudley, who, in an effort to make things right with Harry, shakes his hand just before they depart. Harry's bully, the boy who tormented him for years,
For years and
finally
years
made
and
an
years
effort
and
to set
years.
things straight, and this single act did wonders for their relationship in the years to come.
And I mean, you can't put all of the blame on him. He was a child growing up in a toxic, negative, festered home, which his parents encouraged his bullying towards him. Wasn't his? It wasn't. He has to take blame, but his freaking insane psycho parents are the ones that are to fault, not him fully. he was a kid grown up to believe and encouraged that Harry is worth less than you and you should bully him.
It's later revealed by J.K. Rowling that, despite Dudley's years of abuse towards Harry, they were eventually on Christmas card terms, sometimes visiting each other during the holidays.
That's nice.
While quite hard to believe,
That's more than some
Dudley did
families
eventually develop into a decent man, very much unlike the tyrannous force of nature that he embodied in his youth. Dudley even eventually got married and had a family of his own, raising 2 Muggle children.
Good man.
Harry and Dudley would still see each other enough to be on Christmas card terms, but they would visit more out of a sense of duty and sit in silence so that their children could see their cousins.
Sometimes that's all you're gonna get.
Umbridge's fate. Umbridge is arguably the worst character in the entire Harry Potter story, and she first makes her mark when she infiltrates Hogwarts and makes life at the school a living hell.
Pure
Probably an understatement.
psychotic.
That is until she's tricked into traveling to the Forbidden Forest by Harry and
She
Hermione,
ruined the color pink
only
for
to be
a long
met by a
time.
horde of angry centaurs who carry her off. After this, she's saved by Dumbledore and sacked from her headmistress position after it's revealed that Voldemort had in fact returned. Amazingly, however, Umbridge still found herself with a job after leaving
Who would
Hogwarts.
hire
In
this
fact, the
psycho?
Ministry accepted her back
The
in her previous role of Senior Undersecretary to the Minister of Magic.
But this is
Despite a
after-
brief appearance at Dumbledore's funeral, the next we hear of Umbridge is in 1997, following Voldemort's takeover of the Ministry. In addition to her
she had a
primary
high
position of
job
Undersecretary,
under Voldemort.
Umbridge also became head of the Muggleborn Registration Commission, where she conducted trials that were effectively designed to prosecute Muggleborns.
They were executions.
Umbridge doesn't appear much more in the story
Oh my
after
God, even
this,
her
as there are
smiles.
bigger problems in the wizarding world, Lord Voldemort. However, with Voldemort's eventual downfall, the Ministry once again came under the control of normal witches and wizards,
Not psychotic.
expunging
which
all of
was-
Voldemort's followers from positions of power.
What happened to her
The
after
Ministry of
that?
Magic
Then I wanna
essentially
know.
underwent a reformation,
Good man,
led
right
by
here.
a new Minister for Magic. Fully aware of the type of person that Umbridge was, and the crimes that she'd committed during Voldemort's regime,
Plenty
the new
of them.
minister had
Enough to
Umbridge
write a
arrested,
book.
tried, convicted, and given a life sentence to the island fortress of Azkaban, where she
The
lived out the
irony.
remainder of her days.
Good.
Hogwarts is rebuilt. I know, surprise, surprise.
I mean,
the
yeah.
most famous wizarding school in the world is rebuilt. After Voldemort's defeat, Hogwarts underwent extensive
That's a question I never thought of. What were the other major wizarding schools doing during the Wizarding War? What were they doing when Voldemort was returning, recruiting dark wizards? Were there like battles going on in other wizarding schools? That would be interesting. Because like you never saw like any communication, never any cross-strategic people recruits going to the school to help out. It always seemed like it was a controlled war. It wasn't like global war. That would be like, did they not suffer anything? That's interesting. I wonder.
reconstruction to restore its once splendid halls. With the combined effort of dedicated wizards and the support of the wizarding community, this restoration project revived Hogwarts as the prestigious school of magic it once was,
Number one,
ready to
baby.
welcome new generations
Number
of
one.
students. At the helm was Minerva McGonagall,
The
who ends up
queen.
reprising her role and becomes
of the
full-time
goats.
headmistress of the school. They don't graduate. Well,
What?
not Harry and Ron anyway. The 1997
they
to
don't.
1998 year was an interesting one. It would have been Harry, Ron, and Hermione's 7th year at the famed magical school, Hogwarts.
Not many chances
And I
to
say
do
would have
exams,
been
I guess.
because the trio ended up spending their time elsewhere.
They were busy.
During this school
saving the
year, the
world.
trio decided that they would instead spend their time hunting for Horcruxes.
You know,
However,
a
what this
side
also
hobby.
meant was that all 3 members of the trio missed out on their 7th year of education.
They should go to get
So,
to
did they graduate?
automatically.
Fortunately, Rowling answered this in an interview. Oh, speaking of Ron and Hermione, yeah, did they graduate from Hogwarts? Yes, did they? Harry and Ron didn't go back. Hermione did. Ooh, oh my. Did you bet right? I mean, come on. Nobody's going to think Hermione wouldn't go back. I
That's
predicted, yeah. Of course she'd go back. She has to get her newts. Ron was really done with schooling. I think that it would be kind of tempting to go back just to mess around for a year and have a break. But he goes into the Aura department. Kingsley would have wanted Ron, Neville, Harry, and they would have all gone. And they would have all done the job. So that would have been rounding up the corrupt people who were doing a Lucius Malfoy and trying to pretend that they really weren't
So
involved.
Kingsley got the first year
Despite not
recruit.
graduating, however, Harry and Ron
Like
went on to
straight
become
out of high
successful
school,
in their
go straight to
respective
the
careers.
Auroras.
Following the Second Wizarding War's conclusion, both Harry and Ron were offered positions as Auras at the Ministry of Magic by the newly appointed Minister for Magic, Kingsley Shacklebolt. Harry would go on to become head of the Auror Office, and Ron eventually left the role to help his brother George out at Weasley's Wizard Wheezers in Diagon Alley.
As he should.
After going back to Hogwarts and graduating, Hermione achieved a lot. However, the peak of her success was undoubtedly becoming Minister for Magic. Relationships. Throughout the series, we see various romances blossom. They have their highs and they have their lows. And then all of a sudden, the story just sort of ends. We see some relationships become solidified during the story, like Remus and Tonks, but others are left a little open-ended. Fortunately, Rowling has since expanded on these relationships. Some of the less obvious ones include George Weasley and Angelina Johnson. George Weasley, after the loss of his twin brother Fred, eventually developed a relationship with Angelina Johnson. The unusual aspect of their relationship is that Angelina was actually Fred's ex-girlfriend. They got married and had children, including a son named Fred II and a daughter named Roxanne. Luna Lovegood and Rolf Scamander. After the war, Luna Lovegood, who became a famous young magizoologist, married Rolf Scamander, the grandson of the notable magizoologist Newt Scamander. They went on to have two sons named Lawson and Lysander. Neville Longbottom and Hannah Abbott. Neville Longbottom and Hannah Abbott, both members of Dumbledore's army, ended up together. They didn't have children, but lived together above the Leaky Cauldron, where Hannah worked as a landlady. Draco Malfoy and Astoria Greengrass. These two ended up having a son named Scorpius Malfoy. In a tragic turn of events, however, Astoria actually ended up dying quite young, falling victim to a blood-borne family curse. This left Draco a single father. And finally, Percy Weasley and Audrey.
The least favorite
Percy Weasley, typically seen as the difficult Weasley, eventually found love with a witch named Audrey. They went on to have two daughters, Molly and Lucy. Petunia's affection. Harry Potter's relationship with his aunt Petunia Dursley involves a highly complex range of emotions. Petunia's deep-seated jealousy and resentment towards her magical sister, Lily, Harry's mother, influenced her treatment of Harry, leading to mistreatment and neglect. However, there are glimpses of responsibility and moments that hint at buried emotions, showcasing a more human side to Petunia. In The Cursed Child, it's stated that Petunia actually died at some point before Harry's son began attending Hogwarts. Shortly thereafter, Dudley returns a certain blanket to Harry, the same blanket that he was wrapped up in when he was left at number 4 Privet Drive. This is the last thing I had from my mum. The only thing. I was given to the Dursleys wrapped in it. I thought it had gone forever, and then, when your great-aunt Petunia died, hidden amongst her possessions, surprisingly, Dudley found this, and he kindly sent it on to me. And ever since then, well, anytime I've wanted luck, I've found it and just tried to hold it. This tells us that by the time Albus is a third year, Petunia had actually died, which is tragic in a weird sort of way, given that she likely never revealed her true affection for Harry. Despite her mistreatment of Harry for all those years, the fact that she kept the blanket in her possession shows a hidden sentimentality and possibly even a sense of regret. And that's it for this video. If you enjoy the content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, remember, it does not